Let me talk to you, dummies. It's Eli Drake, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the interactive interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is the namer of dummies from Impact Wrestling. He is Eli Drake. Mr. Drake, are you with me?
The biggest newsmaker there is, right?
That's right. That's right indeed, sir. And speaking of making some news, you guys had 2 tickets to the gun show. You guys are down at Shot Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. How have you enjoyed your day so far in Las Vegas?
It's been interesting. It's been different. I've never been to a convention like that, but it was kind of cool. I mean, you got to see kind of a lot of big artillery, that's for sure. I'm not like a big gun enthusiast necessarily, but I mean, I've definitely shot guns. It's an exhilarating feeling, I can tell you that. But when I saw a grenade launcher at one point, that was pretty wild. But it was a cool time. Of course, you run into some interesting characters there as well.
Well, one of the characters you ran into actually did make some news, speaking of Newsmaker line, and that was The Undertaker. How'd that come to be?
Oh, boy. Just random happenstance. He was just there. He was there in attendance. Goldberg was there in attendance. And there he was. And he was like, I didn't know they were going to wrestle here today. Came over, introduced himself. We took a picture, and he went on his way.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, I'm going to congratulate you on a great match at Homecoming, but I'll tell you what I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say that you stepped it up. All right.
Good man.
All right. So when you think back to your match at Homecoming, how did you enjoy getting involved in Monsters Ball?
Man, that's not my type of match at all. It's not something I see myself doing anytime in the near future. But, I mean, if you're talking about Homecoming and just kind of the meaning of that whole show, and you consider the full circle in a sense of where Impact began and now taking it back there, in a certain sense, yeah, you got to bring it. You got to bring it as much as you possibly can. And so I knew I was going to kind of take and do some stupid stuff that I probably won't ever do again in my career. But I figured, let's go balls to the wall on this one, go for it.
All right. So I have spoken.
Step it up.
I have spoken to you once before, and it was 1 week before you ended up winning the Impact Wrestling Championship. And I got to tell you,
well, you know, I've got a title match this weekend, so maybe you're like my
good luck charm.
Maybe it's something like that, or maybe you're like the prophet of some sort.
All right. I hope I am. So let's talk about that Impact Wrestling title reign. How did you enjoy being the figurehead of the brand?
It was good. I unfortunately don't feel like I really got the best run in a certain sense, just because of certain things. But of course, being pushed to be there, being entrusted in a certain sense to be in that position is amazing. And getting to do that and carry that. At the same time, I mean, there are definitely things that I would have liked to have had done differently. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that I was featured or really given the opportunity to really take the ball on my own and go with it.
All right, so here we are in 2019, and as you said, you're about to challenge for the title again. Do you have itches? Do you have the itch to be that guy again and maybe get the focus that you should have gotten last time around?
Well, hell yeah, always, because, I mean, that's why I got in the business. Like, I didn't get into this to be, background guy or, somewhere just in the mix. Like, I want to be the guy. I want to be at the top. I want to be the guy that everybody's trying to be, wants to be. So, yeah, absolutely. I think a second run with that, a little better focused, I think, would be a necessity.
Absolutely. As the last of a dying breed, do you think you have what it takes to maybe make Eddie Edwards turn the corner and stop his hardcore shenanigans?
I mean, when you do the math and you think about it, and all the titles he'd won before and all the titles that he hasn't won since becoming hardcore, maybe I can get through.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Back on Christmas a few years ago, I put somebody on the spot to do How the Grinch Stole Christmas. They read it out to me. It was Lanny Poffo, the genius. And on Impact, you sang the Wolves theme song. I loved that. Can I get a few bars of that?
I don't even remember. I didn't even obviously know what the words were that night. I think I'd listened to it just a couple times on repeat, maybe before I went out there. I just remember something about force of nature, and that's all I can recall.
The way you were singing it, it almost sounded like the start of like an '80s cartoon.
Well, I mean, that music was so ridiculous, but every time it would come on way back in the day, we used to always start singing it back there.
All right. Well, last time we spoke again, you mentioned that you were eager for the Impact roster to get away from the Impact zone. You wanted the guys out of Orlando. You wanted to see some new faces in the crowd. Obviously, that's happened with the new management. How has it been to be on the road with Impact and see different faces?
Great, just because it does get stale, kind of striking that same spot over and over and over again. So to get out of there, and not that I don't want to go back to Orlando, it'd be great to go back to Orlando at some point, but for that to be month after month after month the same place, it just gets a little stale. I think it gets stale for the audience, and it gets stale for the performers. So now that we're able to go and be in different cities and be in front of different crowds, I think it's great. And not only that, but it also allows more eyes, because you consider all the people who are fans and come to the show. Sometimes they're also bringing people who might not necessarily be fans. Now you're getting more eyes. And if you're only pounding one city over and over and over again, the chances of that happening are next to none.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Yes. And each show you do in a different venue, each set of tapings you do almost have a different vibe to them. Toronto feels different than New York felt, which felt different than Nashville, which felt different from Las Vegas. Do you have a favorite that you've seen so far in your run with Impact?
I think that the one that looks probably the most epic, I think, in photos and on television is probably Toronto. But the energy in New York was off the charts. I remember coming out for Bound for Glory, and just the reaction was huge. Vegas is always fun. But yeah, as far as reaction, New York, and as far as presentation, again, definitely got to be Toronto.
We kind of covered this ground a little bit before, but what is your real opinion of hardcore wrestling? Is this pretty much an extension of your real feelings towards hardcore wrestling?
Yes, it's also kind of an extension of my real feelings about the kind of Cirque du Soleil, ballroom dancing looking spots that everybody seems to like doing now, where it's like a lot of unnecessary movement, where it's like you're gonna turn a guy over and do 2 backflips and then punch him in the mouth when you could have just punched him in the mouth. There's a lot of silliness that I'm always just like, this is the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. But part of that is because I think a lot of guys are missing the point. The point of wrestling, and what everybody's always gotten into wrestling, if you look at the biggest swell in wrestling, if you even just track the ratings segment to segment, the talking segments oftentimes outdo the wrestling segments as far as ratings are concerned. And that's because people like to be told stories, and a match can tell a story, but it can be part of a story. And so, I've been saying for a long time, like, the biggest thing that's a draw, if you want to expand your audience, is to tell better stories, have more compelling characters. The wrestling should be there. It should be good, but it's almost secondary to the story. The story is the important part. The wrestling is the icing on the cake. If you look at the biggest swell in wrestling, you look at the Attitude Era. I just watched long form Raw from like 1998, 99, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'd watched the first 45 minutes of the show, and there was only one match that actually got wrestled from start to finish in that 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. It started off with a promo with Stone Cold Steve Austin. The crowd was hot for it. Then another match, I think the guys made their entrance, and it ended up in this big fight that ended up in a double DQ, whatever. But it was exciting. Every segment had a story. Every segment had an angle. Every segment had big characters that were very different from each other. And so that's what sold it, and then made you want to go buy the pay-per-view and see the matches, as opposed to just matches for matches' sake. And so I think that's why a lot of guys are doing these silly hardcore things, and guys are doing these silly moves that make no sense because they didn't bother getting a personality or figuring out who they are So the way to get the crowd to not be silent, which you got to be comfortable with that silence in a sense, because giving them that little bit to settle down then makes that come up even bigger.
Right.
So I don't know. I found comfort in the silence, because now I know that as soon as you hit something big, boom, now they get up, or now I give them a little personality, or I say something to them where now they can respond back to me, because I know when I'm talking, I can get them to react. I can get them to come up big to something, say something back to me, repeat what I said, or whatever it is. And then as soon as I start talking to them, everybody quiets down. Why? Because they want to hear what I'm going to say.
Right.
So it's all about the character. It's all about the story. What am I telling you? What's happening? Who, how, why, what, when, and where. And then the wrestling is the icing on the cake. Even though wrestling's on the marquee, it's entertainment at the end of the day. It's a show about wrestling.
I agree with that. And one thing you do that others don't, and I don't understand why, is you're chock full of catchphrases. There's a million things you say that can go on a T-shirt, and a lot of guys don't have that.
And that's what the people catch on to. And that's another thing. If I go, again, back to the Attitude Era, I know everybody loves that, but everybody had something that the people could repeat. Val Venus would come out. Hello, ladies. And people love that. If they'd see him somewhere, they'd say that to him. The Godfather would come out. He had his whole thing. Pimpin' Hose, Nationwide, the people got to say it with him. The Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, The Rock, Steve Austin, all these guys had things. Al Snow, what does everybody want? And all the people got to interact. That's all that the crowd wants to do. They want to be part of the show.
Absolutely.
And if they're watching you do a bunch of moves, they're going to enjoy watching that, but they don't get to be a part of the show. When you give them something that they can yell back at you, or a catchphrase that they can say with you, now they get to be part of the show. And that makes people want to get up off their couch instead of watching on TV, and make them actually want to be in the arena, so now they can actually be in on it.
All right. Well, my final question for you, we're coming close to time here, is you guys are in Vegas. You are going to be doing a taping there in February. We already discussed the different venues you've seen, but Impact now on Pursuit Channel. What is your thoughts on Impact heading into 2019 and the new television home of Impact Wrestling?
I mean, it's always a little tricky being on a new television home, because, I mean, a lot of people either miss the memo, or maybe they don't get the channel now or whatever. But the beautiful thing about being on Pursuit is Anthem actually owns Pursuit, and that gives us a lot of freedom. It gives us a lot of wiggle room to do different things, such as being able to simulcast on Twitch, which is a big thing, because now there's really almost no excuse. If you don't get the channel, it's right there on your phone, it's on your TV, it's on your smart TV, whatever it is, you can get the show. And that makes it huge. And, of course, then you got the GWN app and all that. And the cool thing about being on Pursuit is it's a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing. So our show almost stands out like a sore thumb. So that's kind of the cool thing, too, because now you can get a lot of new eyes on the show.
And that's why you guys fit so well at the shot show there today, because you guys are on a station.
That's kind of the idea, just integrate us a little bit.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you can catch Eli Drake Friday nights on the Pursuit Channel and Twitch. Eli, I can't thank you I can't thank you enough. I got to learn to speak today, for taking this time and doing this here with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye.
This is the Wrestling Epicenter. For over 15 years, we've brought you the top names in professional wrestling for exclusive interviews. Everybody you see here has been interviewed by our site. But we're more than just interviews. So be sure and check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for news, results, information, and of course our store. WrestlingEpicenter.com, your #1 source for wrestling information.